Now large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and he turned and said to them, "Whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even life itself, cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry the cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not first sit down and estimate the cost, to see whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it will begin to ridicule him, saying, 'This fellow began to build and was not able to finish.' Or what king going out to wage war against another king will not sit down first to consider whether he is able with 10,000 to oppose the one who comes against him with 20,000? If he cannot, then while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and asks for the terms of peace. So therefore, none of you can become my disciple if you not give up all of your possessions." The word of God for the people of God. Please be seated. Oh, grace and peace to the disciples of Jesus. Have you ever noticed that some people don't think things through very well? Some of you are familiar with the Darwin Awards, which are given out each year to people who do particularly foolish things. One of the finalists for the awards a few years back was a teenager who was in the hospital recovering from serious head wounds received from an oncoming train. When asked how he received the injuries, Vlad told police that he was simply trying to see how close he could get his head to a moving train before it was hit. Well, he certainly found out. I'm glad our teenagers hopefully are smarter than that to attempt something like that. Some people just don't think things through before they act. Now, Jesus had such people in mind one day when he turned to the crowd and said, "Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees will ridicule you, saying, 'This person began to build and wasn't able to finish.' Or suppose a king is about to wage war against another king. Won't he first sit down and consider whether he is able with 10,000 men to oppose the one coming against him with 20,000? And if he is not able, he will send out a delegation while the other is still long away to negotiate terms of peace." In other words, Jesus was saying, before you do something silly, sit down and think it through. Think about the consequences of your actions. Jesus wanted people to give some thought to the conduct of their lives. By thinking through what you're doing before you act, you can save yourself a lot of trouble in every area of your life. Those of you who are into texting, have you ever wished you could take back the text you just hit and sent? I read recently that there is now an app for that. After sending a friend an embarrassing text herself, Masai Peterson, a Washington, D.C. entrepreneur, created a mobile app that lets users take back those text messages they immediately wish they hadn't sent. Jesus wants us to think things through. He wants us to consider the cost. The amazing thing is how few people think about things that matter most. This is a real problem. What are some of the things that matter most to us? Our families, our health, our work, our reputation in the community. Think how many tragedies would be avoided if people simply sat down a few moments and thought through the consequences of their actions with regard to things that really matter to them. Think of how many homes would still be intact, how many prison cells would be empty. Think how many lives would be spared if folks would just think first. Most of you know the name Ted Williams, the former Red Sox baseball legend who was a hitter who hit 400, something pretty much unheard of anymore. Many people consider him one of the greatest hitters of all time. Now, Williams was asked by a reporter about his vision, which was 2010. Yes, he said his eyes were better than normal, and he had a lot of walks because he rarely swung the bat at anything that was out of the strike zone. He just wouldn't do it. Another reporter suggested to him, but if you would, you could probably get more hits if you just swung once in a while out of the strike zone. Yes, Williams responded, he could get more hits. However, he never swung at pitches outside of that strike zone. Well, the reporter asked, why, if you get more hits, why wouldn't you do that? Williams says, because then there is no place to draw the line. Then there is no place to draw the line. One of the most important pieces of information that we can have in our lives is knowing where to draw the line. Let's go back to those areas of life that are most important to us, our family, our health, our reputation, etc. Those things we really don't want to damage or even lose. Can you see the importance of knowing where to draw the line when it comes to those things that matter most to us? There has to be somewhere where you draw the line that you never cross. It's important. Giving thought to those things that are really important in our lives. Psychologists tell us that about 10,000 thoughts pass through the human brain each day. That means that we have 70,000 thoughts each week, 3.65 million thoughts a year. And at least a few of them need to take priority. Which brings me to something the great evangelist Dwight L. Moody once said. He said that if he could get someone to think only 10 minutes about the condition of his soul, that he could convert them. Just give me 10 minutes, he said, and I'll be able to convert them. Of course, the most important thought we can have concerns our relationship with God. If we are centered in our relationship with God, that would take care of most of the critical concerns in our life. A few years ago, you might remember this story, 151 cadets were expelled from West Point for cheating. It was unheard of. A survey was taken among West Point cadets to determine what was the greatest single facet in the student's mind in causing this breakdown in student behavior. And the Secretary of the Army, in discussing the cause of the scandal, reported that at least 2/5 of the cadets, when asked what caused them to stray, was that they weren't required to attend church. They stopped demanding that they go to church. Who among us, he asked, would have thought there would be this effect from removing chapel? The cadets felt that sanctity was driven out of the moral code. Our relationship with God reminds us of some of the lines we dare not cross. When that relationship is broken, we are vulnerable to all kinds of temptations. Even more important, our relationship with God reminds us of a line we desperately need to cross. When Jesus taught about counting the cost before building a tower, his real concern was not architecture or construction. He was advising potential followers about what it meant to be his disciple. He concluded this teaching with these words, "In the same way those of you who do not give up everything, then you cannot be my disciples." I mean, if you want to clear out a room in a hurry, tell everybody they've got to give up everything to follow you. I mean, how many of us really want to take this religion business that far? Yes, that is the demand Jesus makes of every one of us if we want to be his disciple. There is a line that we desperately need to cross, and that is the line that separates those who follow Jesus from those who do not. Once we cross that line, something special is expected out of us. And that is that we dedicate everything we are, everything we hope to be, to following him. And why should Jesus expect that? People all the time are committing themselves to matters of far less importance. A famous athlete said he does 1,000 sit-ups a day. How could anybody be that dedicated to improving their body? We hear about people working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, neglecting their health and their families and their community responsibilities. Is it worth that kind of dedication? Why then should we be surprised that Jesus would ask as much? He does ask more. Jesus asks for it all. But that doesn't mean that we have to live at church. That doesn't mean we have to be out on some street corner preaching from the Bible to everyone that goes by us. The call to renounce everything is not a call to everyone to become a full-time church worker. Rather, it is a call to make our entire life, our work, our play, our family relationships, everything pleasing in the sight of God. The ironic thing is that when we renounce everything else for Christ's sake, we gain more than we lose. We find that in pleasing God, we ultimately please ourselves. That is because God's way leads to life. And we know that. And I always know I'm preaching to the choir. Our churches would be full if people understood what I just said. If they've ever experienced the true love of Christ and the joy that it puts in your heart, our churches would be full. The problem is they've never experienced it. So how do they know what it's like? There's only one way they're going to know. You and I need to share that experience. Not only by role modeling, but when we have opportunities to talk about the joy we find in our lives because of our relationship with Christ, I think it'll encourage some people to come and check us out. Excuse me. In the spring of 2015, a 39-year-old college professor, Mikhail from Venezuela, ran the famous Boston Marathon. He had run 4 previous marathons, but this was his first time running the coveted Boston race. It was for Mikhail the culmination of 6 years of training, and he began that training with running 500 yards the very first time. What makes Mikhail's story unique is that he finished the Boston Marathon in last place. And he finished last because Mikhail has a form of muscular dystrophy that severely impairs his mobility, so that when he runs, it's almost like a very slow and difficult movement of left and right strides. The Boston Marathon course is brutal, hilly, and difficult. It begins early Monday morning, and the average male runner finishes in about 4 hours. Mikhail finished the race in slightly less than 20 hours. He crossed the finish line in the dark, in a pelting rain, with a flock of supporters cheering him on. He was interviewed shortly after completing the race, and here is what he said. It was hard on the body, but in the soul, everything is shining. It was hard on the body, but in the soul, everything was shining. Committed followers of Jesus will someday say something like that about the cost of discipleship. It was hard on the body, but in the soul, everything was shining. All Jesus asks for is for us to use our brain. He is the Savior of the world. Then doesn't it make sense to align our life with His? Suppose one of us wants to build a tower. Won't we first sit down and estimate the cost to see if we have enough money to complete it? You can save yourself a lot of problems simply by thinking through what really matters in your life. Align your life with Jesus, and your head will be